Hi, this is Christina Swanson from Tierra Antigua. So you've decided to buy a house. How exciting. You're probably very excited and probably very scared at the same time, not knowing what the process is. Hopefully this video will help you understand the home buying process and let you know what to expect during that time. Obviously, the first thing that you want to do is contact a lender. If you don't know a lender, call a real estate agent, and they probably have a few that they might recommend to you. The reason you want to call a lender is to find out what you would pre-qualify for so that you know what your buying power is and what type of loan that you would be needing to get, and if you would need to have a down payment and how much that down payment would need to be. The reason you'd want to know what your buying power is because a real estate agent would really hate to take you to a house, you fall in love with it, only to find out that you do not qualify for that type of house. So it is very important. That way you know what to expect on the lending side. Then you'd want to meet with a real estate agent. You want to find somebody that is willing to take their time and be with you and explain everything step by step. Even though you may be listening to this video or they explain the same thing to you, when you get into that process, it's important that you're able to ask them questions if you don't understand and that you feel comfortable asking them questions. During that meeting, you're going to talk to them about what your needs and wants are. So they're probably going to ask you questions like, what part of town do you want to live in? Do you want a 1-story, 2-story? How big of a house? Do you have kids? Is the school district important to you? So be thinking about those things. Maybe the kitchen is the most important to you and you really don't care what part of town that you're in. Or maybe there's a certain school district your kids already go to and it's important that they stay in that school district. During that meeting, you're going to also be talking about the home buying process and what to expect and maybe to look over some other things that you need to be thinking about. For example, what does the contract look like? What kind of expenses could you be possibly looking at when buying a home? Now, some agents will charge you for their services a small deposit, and some won't. So it's important that you know upfront what charges will be put on you. So after you've talked to the agent, more than likely they're going to start sending you houses that fit into your criteria via email. Now it's important to go through those and contact that agent and give them feedback. Maybe they're sending you houses that just are too small but fit all the other criteria, and it's most important that you have a little bit bigger house. That way they can really narrow it down. Now more than likely they're going to say, now pick your top 5 houses. Now the reason you only want to really look at 5 houses at one time is you soon start to forget, what did that first house look like? And you can't remember. So pick those first 5 houses, let your agent know, and then they've got to set up time to go get into those houses and show them to you. So that's the exciting part. You get to go into the houses, you get to see them, and you get to decide, hey, is this a house that I can see myself in, or do we need to move on? Now, more than likely, your agent's going to ask you questions while you're looking at each house, like, what do you like? What are the things that you don't like? In their mind, they're already starting to filter out houses that they may have already been thinking about for you, or maybe a house that they know about will spark your interest just based on what you're telling them. Now, once you've gone and looked at houses and maybe you found that dream house and you're ready to make an offer, it's time to sit down with your agent and talk about the process of writing up an offer. Now, an offer is what you're going to tell the seller, what you're willing to pay for their house. It's not accepted yet, and there might be some negotiations happening, but this is the time that you're going to write that down. So the agent's going to probably run some comps for you to make sure the house is worth what it's being offered to you at. They're going to talk to you about, hey, what type of money do you want to put into an escrow account? So an escrow account is once an offer is accepted, it's a good faith deposit. Now that money can be used towards your closing costs, your down payment, or sometimes you get that money back at the end. So it just really depends on your situation. Once you've all decided on those kind of things, or the agent might ask you, now, do you want a home warranty on this also? A home warranty is a program that you purchase for a year, and it covers your house from appliances, plumbing, electric, your AC, your hot water heater, and many, many more things. So if something breaks within that year, you pay a $60, $70 fee. They come out, they fix it, or they repair it. So ask your agent about some of those programs and find out if this is something that you're interested in. Sometimes you can ask the seller to pay for that too at closing. So it's important that you ask those questions. So once you've decided on all the particulars on what you want your offer to be, your agent's going to write up that offer. And they're going to go through the contract with you. Now the contract's pretty long, so you want to make sure that you understand it. Sometimes agents will give you an example of the contract when you first meet. That way you have time to go through it and understand it and ask questions at the time that you need to ask questions. So once you put your offer in, the seller has three choices. They can accept the offer the way it is written, they can counteroffer, or they can just deny the offer altogether. So when you give your offer, expect one of those three responses. Now sometimes if the house is priced just right and it's new on the market, it can go into a bidding war, meaning other people are putting offers on that house, and you've really got to decide how much you love that house and how much you're willing to pay, because you might have to offer more than what you had originally offered. So let's say that all the negotiations done and they finally accept your offer. So now you are what's called under contract. Both parties have agreed on the purchase price and the terms of the offer. So once you're under offer or under contract, your house goes into escrow. So at that time is when you would give the escrow company the amount of money that you agree to in your contract to put into escrow, and they would deposit it into an account to hold for you. Now when you're in escrow, lots of things happen during that time. So the lender is notified from your agent, and they start getting your loan approved. So you've already been pre-approved or pre-qualified. Now you've got to get approved. So your lender's going to probably want to meet with you and get some paperwork put in. It's like, example, some signatures, pay stubs, statements, tax returns, all of those wonderful things that your lender's going to be asking for. Also during that time, you have 10 days in the state of Arizona anyway to do all the inspections that you would possibly want to do on a house. The most common inspections are just a basic home inspection where an inspector comes in and looks from top to bottom, and they'll tell you every little thing about your house. You probably want a roof inspection done and a termite inspection and bug inspection. That way you know what you're buying. Now during your basic home inspection, things might come up that you want to further investigate. Maybe you want to further investigate the AC unit or the plumbing or the electric. You have 10 days to do all the inspections that you would possibly want to do. So you want to make sure that you have those lined up and you figure out who you want to use. Now if you don't know anybody, go ahead, ask your agent. They probably have quite a few that they would recommend to you. Now, home inspection usually costs around $275 to $400, depending on how big the house is, if it has a pool and you need to get the pool inspected. So keep that in mind while you're starting to look. Start saving that money now. Most roofing companies will give a free roof inspection, so that's always good to get that one done. And then a bug inspection or termite inspection can cost anywhere between $35 to $70, just depending on what company you do decide to use. Now, once you get all the inspections done, you get to write up your information to give to the seller of the things that you may want to have fixed. Now, it's really important that you keep in mind that a seller can say no. So you have to decide, is this something that if they do say no, that I'm still okay to move on and pay for it myself, or is this going to kill the deal altogether? So just kind of keep those things in mind while you're writing it up, and write up what you want fixed. It's you need to get certain things fixed, that's for sure. During that time also, after you go into escrow, the seller's going to send you a disclosure. Those disclosures are very important to read. They tell you everything that you need to know about the house while they were living in it. So maybe it did have a roof leak, but they had it fixed. Or it had some bugs and they had those taken care of. So they're going to disclose some things about the property that you may not know about. Also, if it has an HOA, a homeowners association, maybe you want to make sure that you can park your cars on the street, because maybe you have teenagers and it's important that they're able to have their friends over. So this is the time to find out the things that you need to find out about that property. Also, you're going to find out from the seller's insurance company if they've had any claims on their house in the past. This is always good information, because maybe there was a flood that wasn't disclosed, and that way you can understand that maybe a toilet flooded and they had to have their bathroom fixed or something like that. But it just gives you information about the house. During this time also, escrow company is starting to make sure that the title's clear and that there's no other liens or any back taxes or anything that the seller's going to have to take care of before selling this house. So you're going to get a huge packet from the escrow company. It's important that you read through it. It shows you the plot of the house, and they'll get the homeowners association rules sent to you. But it's important that you go through that and understand everything possible about the house. So once you've made up your inspection request to be fixed, you're going to send that off to the seller, and they're going to let you know what they're willing to fix, if anything at all. In most cases, they'll fix things, but there are cases where a house is going to be sold as is, and they're not going to fix anything. After that, of course, your lender's still working really hard on your loan, and they're probably asking you for more paperwork. Don't get frustrated. They just need to make sure that all the documentation is there and that you truly do qualify for the loan that you are getting. They will also be ordering an appraisal for your house. And in most companies, they charge about $500 to get an appraisal done. So an appraisal is where a third-party company comes in and they figure out what your house is worth, because they don't want to have the lender giving you a loan for a house that is more than what it's worth. So they're there to make sure what you offered on the house is what it's worth. Now, if the appraisal comes back too high, either you're going to have to come out of your pocket the difference if you really want the house, or the seller's going to have to drop their price. So sometimes that happens, and there has to be a little bit more negotiation happening before the house closes. If it appraises for more than what you offered, well, you get to walk into a house with a little bit of equity coming into it. So sometimes it works out to the best. Most cases, it appraises for what you're asking for the seller to sell their house in. Now, during this time, if there was any repairs to be fixed, they're working on that. You're working with the lender to make sure that all the loan paperwork is being processed. The buyer's agent is keeping up with the escrow company, make sure everything's going as processed, and giving them any documentation that they may need, along with the lender. It's just working, and everyone's working together to make sure that this house closes on time. So then it comes time for the big day. You're going to go sign your paperwork. So you're going to go into the escrow office and you're going to sign. You're going to have to take some ID in. If you have a down payment, either you have wired it in or you're taking a certified check in, and you get to go sign for your new house. So you're going to be signing any loan papers. You're going to be signing for the new deed. Now, once you've signed all the paperwork, that doesn't mean you get the keys that day or at that time, because there's still a process. They have to send all the paperwork back to the lender, and they have to, the lender has to release the money and get it wired over to the escrow company. Sometimes that can take a day, so You might not get your keys to the next day. I know in the state of Arizona, you have to record with the county to let them know that you are now the new owner. So once it's recorded, they're going to call your agent, and your agent's going to call you and congratulate you, and then you're going to get your keys to your new house, and you're going to get to move in. Now, it's still exciting, but maybe you forgot where you put something or some paperwork or something about the house. Don't hesitate to call your agent, because they want to make sure that your new house is everything that you dreamed of and that you are enjoying it. Thank you for watching this. Now, even though you may have listened to this, please feel free to call me, because I would love to help you through this process.